English Daily, the podcast.
Your English journey starts now. Hey, English learners. Welcome back to your podcast, the English Daily Podcast.
Yes, we're so happy to have you here today.
Today's episode is all about professional English for human-centric leadership, and we're going to explore how to lead remote teams effectively in 2026.
That's right. And we're going to make it really practical for you with lots of useful phrases you can use in real workplace situations.
So, whether you're a beginner or already speaking well, you'll find something useful here. We'll cover how to express vulnerability, authenticity, and integrity in corporate settings.
That's exactly what modern leaders need in today's remote work environment. Let's dive right in.
So, Jack, let's talk about leadership in 2026. How has remote work changed the way we lead teams?
Oh, that's such a great question, Anna. I think the biggest change is that leaders can no longer rely on physical presence to demonstrate authority or build relationships. In the old days, a manager could walk around the office, have casual conversations by the coffee machine, and just be physically present.
Right, exactly. I remember when I first started working remotely back in 2020, I felt completely lost. I didn't know how to connect with my team without those casual in-person interactions.
That's so true, and I think many leaders felt the same way. But here's the interesting thing. The pandemic actually accelerated a shift that was already happening. Leaders started realizing that commanding and controlling doesn't work anymore, especially with remote teams.
Oh, do you mean commanding and controlling? Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure. So, commanding and controlling is when a leader basically tells people what to do, monitors their every move, and uses fear or authority to get results. It's very top-down, very hierarchical. But with remote work, you can't physically monitor people anymore, right? You can't see if they're at their desk or checking their phone.
Oh, I see. So suddenly, leaders had to find new ways to motivate and guide their teams without that physical oversight.
Exactly. And that's where human-centric leadership comes in. It's about focusing on the people, their well-being, their growth, their authentic selves, rather than just their output. It's about creating an environment where people feel valued and trusted, not monitored and controlled.
That makes so much sense. And I think this is especially important for remote teams because the lack of face-to-face interaction can make people feel isolated or disconnected.
Absolutely. I remember reading about a study that showed remote workers often feel like they're missing out on the social aspects of work. They don't have those spontaneous conversations that happen in an office. So leaders need to be more intentional about creating connection.
What are some practical things leaders can do to create that connection remotely?
Well, one thing that worked really well for me was implementing regular virtual coffee chats. Just casual 15-minute calls where we don't talk about work at all. We talk about weekend plans, hobbies, what we watched on TV last night. It sounds simple, but it really helps build rapport.
Oh, I love that idea. And I think that ties into what we're going to talk about today. Vulnerability and authenticity, because those casual conversations require leaders to be more human, more real.
That's exactly it. You've hit on the core of human-centric leadership. It's about being human first, leader second. And that's what we're going to explore in this episode. The specific phrases and language you can use to express that humanity in professional settings.
Let's dive deeper into vulnerability. Why is it considered a strength in leadership now?
That's such an important question, Anna. For a long time, vulnerability was seen as weakness in leadership. Leaders were expected to be perfect, to have all the answers, to never show doubt or fear. But research has shown that actually backfires. People don't trust leaders who seem perfect.
Really? I would have thought the opposite. Like, shouldn't leaders be confident and sure of themselves?
You would think so, right? But here's what happens. When a leader never admits mistakes or uncertainties, team members feel like they can't be honest either. They hide their problems, they don't ask for help, and that creates a toxic environment where small issues become big problems.
Oh, I see. So vulnerability actually builds trust because it makes the leader more human and relatable.
Exactly. When a leader says, I don't know, or I made a mistake, it gives permission for everyone else to be honest too. It creates psychological safety. That's a term you'll hear a lot in modern leadership, where people feel safe to take risks and be vulnerable without fear of punishment.
Can you give me some examples of how a leader might express vulnerability in English?
Of course, let me share some phrases. For example, instead of pretending to have all the answers, a leader might say, I'm not sure about the best approach here. What are your thoughts? Or they might admit, I made a mistake on this and I want to learn from it. Or even something like, I'm struggling with this decision. I'd love to get your perspective.
Those are great examples. And notice how they're not weak. They're actually empowering the team by asking for their input.
Exactly right, Anna. That's the key. Vulnerability isn't about complaining or being negative. It's about being honest and authentic while still being a strong, effective leader. It's about admitting you don't have all the answers and inviting others to contribute.
I think this is especially important for remote teams. Without face-to-face interaction, it can be easy to misunderstand tone or intent. So being explicit about uncertainty or asking for help becomes even more crucial.
Absolutely. In remote settings, written communication can easily be misinterpreted. So saying things like, I might not have explained this clearly, please ask questions if anything is confusing, or I'm still figuring this out myself, can really help set the tone for open communication.
And that's something our listeners can start using right away in their own workplaces, whether remote or in person. The language of vulnerability is universal in effective leadership. Now, let's talk about authenticity. How can leaders be authentic in a digital environment where so much communication is through screens?
That's a really important question, Anna. Authenticity in digital communication is definitely a challenge, but it's also absolutely possible. I think the key is to be intentional about bringing your whole self to interactions, not just the professional version of yourself.
What do you mean by the professional version? Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure. So many of us have this default work mode where we only show a certain side of ourselves, the competent, polished, always confident version. But authentic leadership is about letting your real personality show. It's about sharing your interests, your personality, even your imperfections.
Oh, I see. So it's about being more personal and human in professional settings.
Exactly. And there's actually research backing this up. Studies show that employees who feel they know their leaders as real people are more engaged and more likely to stay with the organization. People want to follow leaders they can relate to, not just leaders who have titles.
What are some practical ways leaders can show authenticity in remote communications?
Great question. One thing I do is start meetings with personal check-ins. Not just, how's everyone doing, but actually sharing something myself first. Like, hey, I had a really tough morning. My kids were chaos this morning. But I'm excited to be here now. That kind of thing.
I love that. It humanizes you immediately, and it gives permission for others to share their reality too.
Yes, and another thing is being consistent across different communication channels. If you're warm and friendly in video calls but cold and formal in emails, that inconsistency can feel inauthentic. Try to bring the same energy across all platforms.
That's a good point. I think people also appreciate when leaders share their own challenges and learnings, like, I'm still working on improving my presentation skills, or I'm reading this book and it's really helping me think about leadership differently.
Absolutely. When leaders share their own growth journeys, it inspires others to do the same. It creates a culture of continuous learning rather than a culture of pretending to be perfect.
How does this connect to the language we use? What specific phrases can people use to sound more authentic?
Good question. Some phrases that sound authentic include things like, I'm going to be honest with you, or let me share something personal, or this is something I'm still figuring out. Also using first person and sharing your actual thoughts and feelings, rather than always speaking in generalities.
Like, instead of team performance needs to improve, saying, I've been thinking a lot about our team dynamics, and I have some concerns I'd like to discuss.
Perfect example, Anna. That's exactly the kind of personal, authentic language that builds connections. It shows you're engaged and care about the specifics rather than just delivering generic messages.
Let's talk about integrity. Why is it particularly important in remote team leadership?
Oh, integrity is absolutely crucial in remote settings, Anna. When you're not physically in the same space as your team, there's an inherent level of trust required. You can't see what everyone's doing all the time. So the foundation of successful remote teams is trust, built on integrity.
Can you explain what integrity means in this context?
Integrity means being honest, keeping your promises, and acting consistently according to your values. It means doing the right thing even when no one is watching, or in remote work, especially when no one is watching. It's about your actions matching your words.
So it's about building trust through consistent, honest behavior over time.
Exactly. And there are specific ways leaders can demonstrate integrity in remote settings. For example, following through on commitments. If you say you're going to send feedback by Friday, send it by Friday. If something comes up and you can't, communicate that proactively.
What are some phrases leaders can use to demonstrate integrity?
Great question. Some examples include, I want to be transparent about the challenges we're facing, or I'll follow up with you on this by end of day, or let me be honest, I'm not sure about this approach, but here's what I know. Also, I hold myself accountable for this, or that's on me when mistakes happen.
Those are really powerful phrases. And notice how they involve taking responsibility rather than making excuses.
Absolutely. One of the worst things a leader can do is blame others or make excuses. When something goes wrong, strong leaders say, I own this, or let me take responsibility for that. It sets the tone for a culture of accountability.
How does integrity connect to the other topics we've discussed, vulnerability and authenticity?
They're all interconnected. Integrity requires vulnerability. You have to be honest about your mistakes. Integrity requires authenticity. You have to be real about your values and principles. And together, they all build trust, which is the foundation of effective remote leadership.
And trust is what allows teams to function effectively without constant supervision. It's the invisible glue that holds remote teams together.
Well said, Anna. And that's why human-centric leadership is so important in 2026. It's about building those human connections and trust even when we're physically apart.
Let's talk about emotional intelligence. How does it factor into remote leadership communication?
Emotional intelligence is huge in remote leadership, Anna. It's about understanding and managing your own emotions, as well as recognizing and responding to the emotions of others. In remote settings, you miss a lot of the nonverbal cues you'd get in person, so you have to be more intentional about emotional awareness.
Interesting. What are some challenges with emotional intelligence in digital communication?
One big challenge is tone. Text-based communication especially can easily be misinterpreted. What you meant as constructive feedback might come across as harsh criticism. What was meant as a joke might seem offensive. So leaders need to be very careful with their word choices and often add clarification.
That makes sense. I think we've all had moments where we've misread the tone of an email or Slack message.
Absolutely. And another challenge is recognizing when someone on your team is struggling. In an office, you might notice that someone looks tired or withdrawn. Online, you have to actively check in and create space for people to share how they're doing.
What are some phrases leaders can use to check in on their team's emotional state?
Great question. Some examples include, how are you really doing, beyond just work stuff? Or, I noticed you've seemed a bit quieter lately. Is everything okay? Or, I want to check in on how you're feeling about this project. Are you feeling overwhelmed at all? Also, what's one thing I can do to support you right now?
Those are such caring phrases, and they show genuine interest in the person, not just their work output.
Exactly. And that's what emotional intelligence is all about. Seeing the whole person, not just the employee. It's about creating an environment where people feel seen and supported, not just managed.
Interesting. How can leaders manage their own emotions in challenging remote situations?
That's a great question, too. One important phrase is, I need a moment to think about this before I respond, or let me process this and get back to you. Also, I'm feeling frustrated, but I want to work through this constructively, helps name the emotion while still remaining professional.
Those are really helpful. Naming your emotions actually helps diffuse them, and being honest about them models healthy emotional regulation for your team.
Absolutely. And it goes back to vulnerability and authenticity. Leaders who can acknowledge their emotions in a healthy way create space for everyone else to do the same. That's emotional intelligence in action.
Now, let's get into some practical application. Can you give us some specific phrases leaders can use in different scenarios?
Absolutely, Anna. Let me break this down into different situations leaders commonly face. First, let's talk about giving feedback. Instead of, your work isn't good enough, a human-centric leader might say, I see a lot of potential in this project, and I'd love to share some thoughts that could take it to the next level.
I love that. It's constructive, but also encouraging.
Exactly. Now, for acknowledging mistakes, instead of making excuses, a leader might say, I made an error in my communication, and I apologize for any confusion. Let me clarify. Or, I own this mistake. Here's what I'm doing to fix it and prevent it from happening again.
Those are powerful because they take responsibility while also providing a solution.
For sure. Now, for asking for input, instead of just assigning tasks, a human-centric leader might say, I'd really value your perspective on this. What are your thoughts? Or, I want to make sure everyone has a chance to contribute. Does anyone have concerns or ideas?
What about for supporting team members who are struggling?
That's so important. Phrases like, I've noticed you seem stressed lately. Is there anything I can do to help? Or, take whatever time you need. Your well-being is more important than any deadline. Also, remember, it's okay to not be okay. Let's figure out how to make this more manageable together.
Those phrases show genuine care and create psychological safety.
They do. And for building connection in general, leaders can use phrases like, I'd love to get to know you better as a person, not just a colleague. What's something you're passionate about? Or, I really appreciate your contribution to this team. You bring a unique perspective that we value.
All of these phrases have something in common. They're person-centered rather than task-centered. They acknowledge the human behind the work.
That's a great observation, Anna. That's exactly what human-centric leadership is about. It's about recognizing that behind every project, every deadline, every deliverable, there's a human being with needs, aspirations, and challenges.
And these phrases aren't just for leaders either. Anyone can use them to create a more human-centered work environment, whether they're a manager or a team member.
Absolutely. Leadership isn't just about titles, it's about how you treat people and the culture you create through your words and actions.
Now, let's break down some key vocabulary and phrases from today's conversation. Jack, let's start with psychological safety.
Great choice, Hannah. Psychological safety is the belief that one won't be punished or humiliated for making mistakes, speaking up with ideas or questions, or challenging the status quo. It's crucial in high-performing teams. Example sentence, our team has built strong psychological safety so everyone feels comfortable sharing their honest opinions. Alternative usage, you could also say, we've created an environment where people feel safe to take risks.
Next phrase, to hold someone accountable.
This means to make sure someone takes responsibility for their actions and results. Example, as a leader, it's important to hold your team members accountable while also supporting them. Common mistake. Don't confuse this with blame. Accountability is about learning and growth, not punishment.
Good one. Let's talk about to check in on someone. This means to ask how someone is doing, especially to see if they need support. Example, I wanted to check in on you after that difficult client call. Are you doing okay? Alternative, how are you holding up? This shows genuine care.
What about to own a mistake?
To own a mistake means to take full responsibility for it without making excuses. Example, I want to own my mistake on the Henderson project. I should have communicated the timeline more clearly. Common usage, you'll also hear "that's on me" as a shorter way to acknowledge responsibility.
Let's include to be transparent. This means to be open and honest, sharing information freely. Example, I'll be transparent with you. We're facing some budget challenges this quarter. Alternative, I want to be upfront about.
Excellent. How about to work through something? This means to deal with a problem or challenge together. Example, let's work through this issue together. I want to understand your perspective. This shows collaboration and support.
What about to have someone's back?
This means to support and defend someone, especially in difficult situations. Example, don't worry, I've got your back in this meeting. You can count on me. It's a great phrase for building trust.
Let's add to blow off steam. This means to release stress or frustration, usually through some activity. Example, after that intense project, I really needed to blow off steam, so I went for a run.
Great one. How about to take something to heart? This means to let something affect you emotionally, often used when receiving feedback. Example, I took your feedback to heart and made some changes to my approach. It shows you value the input.
What about to read between the lines?
This means to understand the hidden meaning behind what someone says, especially when they're not being completely direct. Example, I could tell she wasn't happy, even though she didn't say so directly. You have to learn to read between the lines in communication.
Let's include to set the tone. This means to establish the mood or atmosphere for something, especially for a team or meeting. Example, as a leader, you set the tone for your team's culture. If you're positive and supportive, your team will be too.
That's a great one. How about to be on the same page? This means to have the same understanding or agreement about something. Example, before we proceed, let's make sure we're all on the same page about the project timeline.
What about to weigh in?
This means to give your opinion or contribution to a discussion. Example, I'd love to weigh in on this decision if that's okay. I have some thoughts from my experience. It's a collaborative phrase.
Let's add to pivot. This means to change direction or strategy. Example, we need to pivot our approach based on the new client feedback.
It's very common in business. Great one. How about to band together? This means to unite or come together for a common purpose. Example, the team banded together to meet the tight deadline. It was really impressive.
What about to read someone?
This means to understand someone's emotions or intentions. Example, I'm still learning to read people in virtual meetings. It requires paying extra attention to tone and word choice. Important skill for remote leaders.
Let's include to give someone the benefit of the doubt. This means to assume someone had good intentions, even if their actions caused problems. Example, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. She might not have known about the policy change.
That's a great phrase for building trust and forgiveness in teams. And let's end with to walk in someone's shoes. This means to understand or experience someone else's situation. Example, before judging, try walking in their shoes for a day. You might understand their challenges better.
Those are wonderful phrases for human-centric leadership. Practice using them in your own conversations, and you'll sound more natural and authentic in professional English.
Now let's wrap up with some reflection questions for you to think about. First question. Think about a leader you've worked with who demonstrated vulnerability. How did it make you feel? And how did it affect your relationship with them?
Second question. How comfortable are you with admitting mistakes or uncertainty to your team or colleagues? What might hold you back, and how could you work on being more open?
Third question. In your experience, what creates the strongest sense of trust in a remote team? Is it communication frequency, transparency, reliability, or something else?
Fourth question. How do you currently show authenticity in your professional communications? Is there room to share more of your genuine self with your colleagues?
Fifth question. When someone on your team is struggling, how do you typically respond? What phrases from today's episode might you use in the future?
Sixth question. How would you describe the level of psychological safety in your current work environment? What could be done to improve it?
Seventh question. What is one specific phrase from today's episode that you want to start using in your workplace? How will you practice it?
Eighth question. How has your definition of effective leadership changed over time? What qualities matter most to you now compared to before?
Ninth question. What challenges do you face in building connections with colleagues in remote or hybrid settings? What strategies have worked for you?
10th question. How can you apply the principles of human-centric leadership in your own life, even outside of work? Think about your relationships with friends, family, or community.
We covered a lot of ground today, Anna. Human-centric leadership is such an important topic, especially as we navigate remote and hybrid work in 2026.
That's true. And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being human, authentic, and genuine in your interactions with others. Those qualities matter more than ever in remote leadership.
Absolutely. And keep practicing those phrases. The more you use them, the more natural they'll become. Language learning is a journey, and every conversation is an opportunity to grow.
Yes, and we hope you feel more confident now when you encounter these terms in English language media and workplace settings. Knowledge is power, and you're building that power every day.
That's right. Thank you so much for joining us today, English learners. We're really grateful to have you here.
Yes, and don't forget to subscribe to the English Daily Podcast. We'll be back with more episodes to help you improve your English and succeed in your professional life.
Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.
Bye for now. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep being human. You've got this. Your learning journey doesn't stop here. Keep improving your English. Click the next video or explore more episodes we've picked just for you. See you in the next lesson.